Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. I'm James and you're watching Blue Dog Reptiles. I apologize for not putting out a video last week. As you can see, I'm in a sling. I had surgery on my shoulder and so I was kind of out of it. But I did want to put out a video this week for you guys. This is Sally. Sally is a lesser Woma ball python. She is about 2,800 grams and full grown. She's just under 4 foot long. But she isn't really our big focal point. Nope, she's trying to go up my sleeve. Today we're talking about something that's kind of been on my brain lately, and I just want to address it a little bit. But it's the top 5 things that you need to know before getting a reptile. Let's start out at number 5. Number 5 is research. There are countless species of reptiles, all of them different. The biggest thing is making sure that you know what you're getting into, whether the animal has a 20-year lifespan, a 100-year lifespan, how big the animal gets. These are all things that we need to figure out on what's best suited for your family. If you have little kids, is it a good idea to have a Burmese python? If you have little kids, is it good to have a 6-foot monitor rolling around your house? The big things we need to know, and this is why we do research before, and we'll tell every one of our customers in our store here to do research. If you're unsure, if you're not ready, make sure by doing research. Even if it's, oh, I'm looking at dart frogs or I'm looking at bearded dragons, guess what? There are different types of bearded dragons, different morphs, Uromastyx, you have the Saharans, the Nigers, the Egyptians. Which type best fits your needs? So, number 5, as always, do your research. Number 4 is enclosure size. Now, what size enclosure do we need? Now, is it something that's going to be like a little anole that could live in a 8x8x12 if it's the only one in there? Absolutely. What space do you have? Now, let's say you have a Nile monitor. Well, that's going to be a 4 to 6 foot animal, which means that it needs almost a room. What type of things does it need in the enclosure? Does it need a water source? Does it need moving water? Is it a chameleon that takes up a lot of space? This is why, reverting back to number 5 of research, this is why we do our research. If you're living in an apartment, I think they might frown on if you have a 6-foot monitor and an enclosure. But something like this, a ball python, we actually have her in a 4 foot by 3 foot by 18 inch. Oh, sorry girl, I actually smacked her in the face. So it's not something that you can cram in a 20-gallon. You can see how big this snake is. It needs the room to move. It needs the room to hang out. And yeah, so number 3, we'll get on to number 3, is diet. Now, Sally here, she eats rodents. That's just what she does. I actually had someone at a show that asked me if there was such thing as a vegetarian snake, because they did not want to kill a rodent. Well, guess what? There's pre-killed rodents for that very reason, so you don't have to knock them or feed them live. But number 3 is important because I have people that won't even get an animal that eats bugs because they don't want the bugs in their house, which, that's your right. But you also need to make sure that this animal is eating healthy. So if you have a tortoise or if you have Uromastyx, yeah, they're going to eat greens. But if you have something like this, this is going to eat rats, it's going to eat rodents. So just be mindful of what the diet is of the animal that you are getting. Things like day geckos, crested geckos. There are supplements to insects. I know a lot of crested geckos that just eat Repashy, which is a food meal supplement. You don't have to have any insects in your house, and maybe that's right for you. But it all comes back to doing research on the animal. What does the animal eat? What is comfortable for you that you can make sure that this animal lives a long and happy life. Also with that, make sure that you're doing your research on if the animal needs calcium supplements or multivitamins Obviously, our snake friend here does not, but that's not the case for most of your lizards and most of your reptiles. So, number 2, handleability. This is a big factor for a lot of people. As you can see, Sally here does just fine being handled. She's a big girl, but this sometimes scares people because you may not want to hand a snake this size, and you shouldn't without supervision, to a child. Because even though they're big sweethearts, this snake or any other snake doesn't need to try much to hurt a child. And it's not that they're actively trying to hurt them, it's maybe they lost their grip and they're just gripping tighter like they would in the wild to a tree trunk or whatnot. Now, there are lizards like bearded dragons, leopard geckos that are more used to being handled and are a lot more forgiving when it comes to youth. But as always, make sure to have kids under supervision of the parents. Any animal that you get, and these guys, guess what? These guys are not presents. These guys live a long time. And so it shouldn't be an impulse buy of, oh, my kid wants this for his birthday, and then 2 weeks later you're trying to find a new home for it because the hype wore off and now the kid actually has to take care of the animal. That's not okay. You need to make sure that whatever animal you decide to go with, that it is a life-term commitment. Sulcata tortoises are one of the biggest ones and then one of the biggest sellers, and that's why we tell people that, guess what? These guys can live 80 to 150 years. You heard that right, 150 years. They are the 3rd largest species in the world. Do you have room to accommodate that kind of animal? Are you going to put that animal in your will? But snakes, ball pythons, corn snakes, a lot of people see them as beginners because they don't need a whole lot of room. They don't, I mean, yes, they're active. I mean, you can see she's active. She's checking out what's going on. So, snake-wise, ball python, corn snakes, they're good first beginner pets under supervision. Bearded dragons, leopard geckos, they're great for handleability, good first pets. However, they do need specialty lighting, so make sure to keep that in mind. That is something that's going to be in the budget of setting up an animal. Like day geckos or other like fan-footed geckos. Those aren't animals that you're going to be able to touch. They're going to be animals that are going to be a look only and no handling. So if that's what you want, then by all means, get that type of animal and get that type of setup. But make sure to do your research on the animal. That way you know, does it need a terrestrial, doesn't need an arboreal setup. We want to make sure that these guys, they're under our care. We're going to bring them into our home. We want to make sure that they're a right fit for our family and that they will be an active family member and be part of our family for a very long time. Now, number 1, I've said it multiple times. Can you guess what number 1 is? Before we get into that, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I do want to give a big shout out to all you. We just hit over 400 subscribers on this channel, so thank you all so much for that. I've been trying to get in the swing of getting videos up and going again, so I appreciate your guys' patience. I should be out of this sling hopefully in a week, but we'll see. It's all up to the doctor. But finally, number 1 is well, I already said it. Number 1 is research. So yeah, you heard it. Number 5 is research. Number 1 is research. And that's because of the importance of doing your research before you get an animal. And that is why that's the top 5 things that you need to know before getting a reptile. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We can't wait to see you guys next Friday. If you have any suggestions for videos you want to see, just let us know in the comments down below. And say goodbye to Sally. She is just hanging out there. And as always, guys, love your family, but love your reptiles more.